If you're over 40 and gaining belly fat fast, it's not just what you're eating, it's how your body's reacting, and the fix is easier than you think. Hey, sis, I'm Loretta, the Reset Coach for women over 40. I'm a certified in health, life, and menopause coaching, and I help women like you reset your hormones, lose weight naturally, and finally feel strong and in control again. If the scale won't budge, your cravings are wild, and belly fat's coming out of nowhere, you're in the right place. Tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a me in the chat if you're ready to feel strong again from the inside out. So we're gonna get started. I want to build on what I talked about yesterday in terms of belly fat and blood sugar and how it's just all connected. So we're going to talk just briefly about that. So let's connect the dots real quick. When you eat sugar or like high carb foods, like think about cookies, bagels, and you're eating them, especially without protein or fiber, your blood sugar spikes. So what happens? That triggers insulin, which stores fat, and that fat especially loves that belly area. Then comes the crash. So it's like you get the spike, then the crash, then the cravings, and then when you add in stress, that's going to add in your, increasing cortisol and then even more fat storage. So it's a cycle. It's a cycle. And the fix really starts with stabilizing blood sugar and lowering cortisol. But the real game changer is strength training. Now, don't run away, don't leave, don't scroll, don't listen. You gotta listen to what I'm talking about. Yeah, I said strength training, but let me explain. So, strength training is the hormone set reset tool. This is how what I call it for women over 40. Now, when you build muscle, it's like I said, muscle's what we really need to be doing and building at this time. So when you're building muscle, it helps make the body muscle makes the body use glucose better. And that helps to resist, or well, I should say reverse insulin resistance. So it also muscle, and we talk about this all the time. Muscle helps you burn calories even at rest. So like you're sitting, and a lot of us sit a lot during the day. When you have muscle, it helps burn calories even when you're not active. Muscle helps lower cortisol by building physical resilience and reduce chronic inflammation. And that's key in our age, reducing chronic inflammation, because you'll know when that's building, and it's a key thing. Muscle also helps to reshape our body. Even if the scale isn't moving much, you'll notice that I don't talk a lot about, oh, especially when we get into the community and we're setting goals in the community. And if you don't know, I have a free community for women over 40, exclusively for women over 40. And we talk about, I always am posting information and have resources available. And one thing you'll notice, I'm not focused on weight goals. Now, your doctor may, and that's perfectly, between you and your doctor. But for me, it's not so much the scale, because especially like if you're building muscle, the scale may not move as much, but what you'll see is a difference in how your clothing is fitting. And we talk a lot about, especially when you get into the inner circle of our community, about waist size. That's a really big factor that you can really work on and concentrate on. But let me get back. So muscle is like, let's think of it as a metabolic insurance policy, right? And after 40, we're losing it unless we are intentional. We have to be intentional and build muscle on purpose is really key, because remember, especially if you listen to any of my other videos, or if you're coming from the community, you'll know I talk about how as we get older, we are naturally losing this muscle. So we have to be intentional. So let's talk about how to start. I hate just telling you information without giving you a solution. So that's what we're going to do now. How to start strength training without feeling overwhelmed. Because a lot of times when we start talking about or thinking about exercise, it's like, oh, wait, my schedule, how am I going to fit that in? And people, we don't, the whole key of it is if it's not something that we can really just see ourselves doing it, sometimes we'll procrastinate and we won't ever start. So, what I want to do here is talk about what you can do right now. Okay. So let me, and I always talk about water. Have your water. Make sure you always, have and drinking your water. All right, sis. So remember, as I keep going, and I'm going to talk about actual exercises, this is for education purposes only. Always check with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your routine. All right, so now let's get into it. You don't need a fancy gym, okay? Or, hours of the day. What we need to do is find a way so you can start today. So here's what you can do. Um, Look, if you haven't yet, like and subscribe. If you haven't done that yet, make sure you do that. So we can start with body weight exercises, okay? So squats, wall push-ups, and then maybe you start off just 2 rounds of that. So here, I use this as an example a lot. I have this machine, it's an espresso machine, and I typically have a cup, 1 cup a day. I do tend to go with decaf or half caffeinated coffee. Um, and so I have this espresso machine, and now it's going to take, and I never really timed it, but it takes whatever amount of minutes to actually heat the water and actually make this espresso. In that time, I can do squats. And I think I'm going to start doing some videos for you so you can see how to do body weight squats. And when I say body weight, meaning not using any extra weight, or then as you get further along, you can add weight with the squats. Excuse me. And that'll work in terms of, now, this is what I'm talking about, habit stacking. So if you're already watching, or if it's not coffee, or you're waiting for you have tea and you're waiting for that, you can sit there and say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do some squats while I'm waiting on that. You're already waiting. And a lot of times when we're waiting for things like that, we're just scrolling on our phones and things of that nature. So this helps you say, okay, you know what? I can do something that, that's going to help strengthen me, strength training while something else is going on. And so I encourage that to just get started. Like I said, even if it's just 2 rounds, just get started. So next thing you can do is use resistance bands. Those you can get off of Amazon if you don't have some already. And that allows you to do simple exercises. But the key of it is do what you can do that's going to help you be consistent. Okay. And that you have readily available to you. The other thing is light dumbbells. And these are things you can do at home. That's why I'm mentioning them 2 to 3 times a week, right? And then as you start and you're consistent, you'll see that now the weight, you'll want to increase that weight. But now, like I always say, and I talk about in the community a lot, start where you are. Use where you are as a base, and then you go from there. Okay. So now let's set a movement block goal. I always say, if it's not on your schedule, it's not going to happen. So if you're some people really live by their calendars, others don't. But where you are, set a goal, set 15, 20 minutes at a consistent time. For me, a lot of times I like to do things first thing in the morning. And the reason why is because the day, sometimes you just never know what to expect during the day. So that helps me say, yep, I started. But then different times during the day, I'll sit there and say, okay, let me do something else. And that helps me to be consistent during the day. Some people do it right after meals because then, especially when we start talking about walking and stuff like that, But as far as strength training goes, set a movement block goal, 15 to 20 minutes at a consistent time, something that it'll work for you. And if you try one thing and it doesn't work, then try another time. But the key is to find what is going to be that consistent time block. Now, the next thing, yeah, don't come for me, but I'm just going to say it because I know what I'm talking about. Don't overdo cardio, okay? I'm spending a lot of time talking about strength training because that is something that a lot of women, they steer away from. And trust me, we're not going to get all big and bulky, but the key of it is to increase our muscle, right? So, why do I say don't overdo cardio? Well, because you can actually spike your cortisol levels by excessive cardio. Okay. So that's why a lot, if you hear, and like I said, in the community, we focus on steps, number of steps, and walking, because walking is key. It's something that you can do and you can incorporate it in your daily day-to-day activities. So don't overdo cardio. If you've been listen to any of my other videos, I tell the story how I would go to this like kind of hit workout. It was an hour long and I would go for it, a little competitive. So I would go for it. And it was like almost like you didn't really accomplish anything until you felt just bad afterwards, right? But I found that as I got older, that wasn't good for me anymore. So that what I used to do when I was younger just wasn't working anymore now that I'm older. So don't overdo the cardio. So listen, I tell, like I said, everyone's different, but I really try to focus when I'm talking to women is not to focus just on the scales, the numbers on the scale. So, because what we want to do, and that's when we talk about building muscle, we want to build a body that burns fat for you. How's that sound? So that's really what our focus is and why strength training is just so important for women over 40. Your body doesn't need more punishment, it needs support. What do I mean by that? I do go and get on a treadmill, and to be honest, I can still run. I can still get up there and run. I just choose not to really. I focus on walking, and some of the reasons why, because I am getting older. I'm 56 years old. So what happens is I know that I'm still using the same joints that and now my joints and all my things are now 56 years old. So I said, you know what? I don't necessarily need that constant, push all the time. And sometimes I do. I do, but I just don't do it as consistently as I used to because I focus on walking. Your body doesn't need more punishment, it needs support. Strength training is how we reset our metabolism. It helps us to reduce belly fat. And you know what? It takes your power back naturally. It allows you to work on what's going on in your body and really reset it naturally. So I need y'all to drop a me in the chat if you're committed to keep showing up for you. And next, when you see me next live, I'll be talking about why diets are failing for women over 40. And I'm talking about just the normal diets that are out there that, we've all tried and then it doesn't necessarily work out for us. And I'm even coming for, a lot of times the reason why we are doing these diets are because they used to work for us, right? So they used to work. And so we were circling back. And then we were trying to figure out, well, it used to work. Why isn't it working? So I need you to make sure you're back for that because I'm going to talk about why the diets are failing for us women over 40 and the simple shifts that actually work. And if you want even more resources, join me in my new community where I'm there to help you. And make sure you subscribe, turn on your alerts, sis, because this is how we're going to age and we're going to age strong. All right. We're aging gracefully. All right. Until next time, you make sure you keep showing up for you.